Welcome to Aspen Updates in an Instant for the 2109 release. We've got a ton of really good features for you this time. Wanted to start out with a lot of accessibility work that we've done. So we know that people are using Aspen with different abilities in terms of visual acuity and that kind of thing. So we wanted to update some of the search results to make it easier for screen readers to search the catalog. It's a little hard to see without a screen reader, but if we do a search for, we'll search for Harry Potter, because basically each of these results becomes a header link, which makes it really easy to jump between results when you're using a screen reader. So you can easily scroll down through the page. And then also when we get into this, it's easy to jump into the different sections. So you can go from the description to the also in the series, more like this, etc. We've also done a lot with some of the tab orders, making it easy to either click or press on buttons. So if you're not using a mouse, it's really easy for people to use. Some other user interface updates that we've done. So as we look at the number of copies and number of people on the wait list, that's something that people were having a hard time seeing. It was a little bit too small, so we increased the font of that just to make it a little easier to use. And then up at the top, we've updated some of the menus so that they work a little bit better. There was a weird behavior where every once in a while it would like close on automatically. So it's not going to do that anymore. Updated some of the translations to look a little bit better, so we can easily click between English and Spanish. It's really obvious what people are doing. And if you have more than 3, it's going to go to a drop-down menu. So back to English. Some of the icons are now using Font Awesome icons. So if we filter down to fiction, our lock and these icons are all Font Awesome, just to make it a little easier to have the contrast be appropriate, to make it easier for theming and that kind of. On to some holds changes. So we made a bunch of changes to the holds. So we've had the setting for being able to bypass the prompt for pickup location so that you could remember your preferred pickup location. A couple of people had reported, and we fixed an issue where it was still defaulting to their home branch rather than the pickup location they had selected. And that was happening just in a couple of cases when the bypass location was on and people were automatically going through. So if in the past you disabled letting people remember their pickup location, it's now safe to re-enable that. We also updated and added a new option. So in your location settings, we now have the ability, so like for bookmobiles or study rooms or hold lockers, that kind of thing, we've made a couple of updates. So if you know nobody's ever going to be searching it, so if you know that it's a bookmobile, it's a kind of a browsing collection, you don't have a web interface to it, you can deselect create search interface, which just means it's going to compact some of the results in the index, just make some of the searching a little bit faster for everything else. So we can get rid of that. And there is the ability in the holds location. So in ILS account integration, so valid hold pickup branch, we've been able to say, is it valid for all patrons? So in a consortium, anybody in the consortium can use it. We had, is it valid for patrons of this branch only? So that was a case where it's like, hey, if you've got an elementary school that's part of a school library district, you might only want the elementary school kids to pick up at their elementary school and not have the middle schoolers coming over to the elementary school or anything. For things like hold lockers, bookmobiles, that kind of thing, we added the ability to say valid for patrons of this library only. So you're able to say in a consortium, hey, I only want my hold lockers used by my patrons. If somebody from another branch wants to come pick up through the main library, they can do that, just not the hold lockers or the bookmobile, that kind of thing. So a little more flexibility in that. The other thing we did related to holds, we had a couple of cases where people were placing duplicate holds by double clicking the button. So we just went through and prevented duplicate clicks on the button. So if you've been getting any duplicate holds, that should fix it. Moving on to the New York Times list. So for people that we've had a few people say that they're frustrated by the New York Times list. So there's a few New York Times lists that very, very rarely get updated. So we're here in our New York Times lists. Well, there's some of these like the animals and some of those celebrities. If you don't want those and don't want to see those, you can easily just delete those. So if I never want to promote the celebrities, we can just delete that. If you ever want to, and then that'll disappear there, it will stop showing in search results, and all of those things. So just a nice way to clean that up. If you do want to reload that, you can always reload it from the list. So if you want to reload celebrities, you can just do the update list. Lots of e-content changes as well. A lot of them for Overdrive. We've had some slow indexes from Overdrive, so we went through and updated that. Performance was kind of a big theme through this. So in the indexing log, you'll see that those times are all a lot faster. So we're doing a much better job of detecting changes just since the last time you indexed. So we'll have updates that used to take potentially hours will now take like 5 minutes, which is amazing. We also added a new format for Overdrive. So here we're doing a search for the Kite Runner. Overdrive has a bunch of graphic novels now, as well as Hoopla. So Hoopla graphic novels were previously titled e-commerce. So now Overdrive, or e-comic. So Overdrive ones are now labeled e-comic as well. You can always translate that if you prefer like e-graphic novel or something. And then you can obviously preview those so we can see there's our graphic novel, but just a nice way for people to compare what is the full book. So if we did a preview of the full book, that's going to be the full one versus the graphic novel. So people want to see those separately. So we separated them out for you. And then they should group with the Hoopla titles as well, if you've got both. Obviously, more fixes and more updates to some of the ILS integration functionality. So with Polaris, we've updated again more performance improvements to make the indexing faster and extracts from Polaris faster. We can log in with username. We can post payments to Polaris. So if somebody's paying through PayPal or any other e-commerce provider, those payments are recorded within Polaris. And speaking of e-commerce, we did add support for Comprise this time. So if you are a library using Comprise, we're now able to set you up with that. So you can use that now in addition to PayPal or some of the other e-commerce providers we've had in the past. Even more stuff. So searching, like I said, we did a lot of restructuring of how the data is stored. That's going to make for faster indexes, give us the power to do a lot more cool things in the future. Just a lot of that data is now in the database rather than Solr. So in some cases, it's a lot more convenient to query that way. That does mean, because we are restructuring it, for some systems, especially some of the larger consortia, the update time is a little bit longer than normal. During the update, everything is still functional. So you're still going to see results. People can still place holds, check things out. It just takes a little longer on the back end. So it is something that we'll be monitoring as we deploy it, but no downtime, again, just potentially slower but we may do the deploy a little later at night just to make sure the patrons are off as much as possible just for performance of the upgrade. Two more things I want to show real quick before I go over my 15 minutes. So in side loads, we have the ability now to remove specific records. So a lot of times when you're getting records from a provider, they will give you new MARC records with all of the new things and then just say, oh, well, we're going to go to our test system. So side loads, settings. So for example, Canopy might say, hey, here's a new file with everything we've added in the month of July. And also we deleted these 5 records. So instead of like having to create a new MARC bundle with everything that's still active, if there's records that are deleted, you can just enter the ID. So this could be like Canopy or whatever it is. And then either commas or carriage returns, whatever's most common, most convenient for you to do. So Canopy 7. And then those records automatically get deleted on the next run too. And then just a couple of updates to web builder. So we've added the ability to, if we go to a custom page, let's go into, we'll just go into my yoga one. So we have the ability now to change justification. So we can say vertical alignment, top of row, bottom, middle, all of those, and how we want it justified. So we can say center justified things. If we want to make it a little longer so it's a little more obvious. So we can set that justification. So there we've got our centered text. And that works for if you have multiple cells as well. We also have the ability to embed PDFs now. So if we edit that, we can say that this is a PDF. It'll show us all of our PDFs, which I don't have any currently uploaded, but if I uploaded one, we could. And you can say, how is that PDF displayed? So it can either be directly embedded. So if you've got something that's generally a small one, but like if you've got a flyer for story time or something that you want to display, you could easily display that. Or you can just display a thumbnail. So if it's a link to a longer document, like clippings files or a full like research report, we've got people embedding that kind of content. You can just have a thumbnail, and Aspen will actually automatically generate the thumbnail when you update it, so you don't have to worry about creating a separate one. Are there any questions about any of that? That's a lot of content. There's probably another 50-ish changes as well. So we've got a lot in this release. So please check out the release notes that are available. So Aspen Test bywatersolutions.com, admin release notes, and you can see all of our release notes there. Any questions for today or? All right. Well, thank you for joining us for Aspen Updates in an Instant, and we will talk to you for the 21.10 release. All right. Bye, everyone.